We're gifted people, and everybody exploits our. I wish we would exploit our own gifts. I wish we would know what we're worth. And like maybe you are an entrepreneur and you were scared to step out, but continuing to do the same thing that causes you misery is insanity because it permeates the rest of your life.
All the way from the G903, small town love with big city dreams, bringing you the stories of people who went from nothing to something. People who've been in your shoes. It's Wave with a Z. That's right. It's time for Zave to bring that new wave of inspiration, motivation, and success right to you.
Are you looking for a side hustle to replace your current income or a way to grow your already existing business? Click the link in the description to start the 15-day Business Builder Challenge to start earning an extra 1 to 10K a month or more. Link in the episode's description.
First, I'm a child of God.
Yes,
I don't always honor him with all of my steps, but that is paramount who I am, and I'm walking in his will for my life. So I'm a child of God. I'm a husband. I've been with the same woman for literally half my life. She is, we started dating when she was 19, I was 20. I'm 41, she's 40 now. And we've been married for 18 years. I'm a dad. I'm an overbearing dad. I'm a perfectionist dad.
Yeah.
I'm an excited dad. But I'm a dad of 3 wonderful children. My 2 daughters, the oldest, Zena, is 15. Then I've got a 9-year-old, Amara, a track star. Then I got my son, the promise, Obi Jr. He can tell he's actually on the autism spectrum, but there's way more to his life and to his story than that component of it. But it definitely challenges us in how we approach the world as a result.
Right.
And then on the professional side, I'm an educator. I use that's my foundation, but my education is about financial literacy, wealth building in the Black community.
Tell us about that focus in the Black community.
Well, so I'm a student of Dr. Claude Anderson. And Dr. Claude Anderson talks about group economics and the need for the Black community to have an infrastructure and establish group economics to grow. We have about roughly 1% of all the wealth. In 2020, the Black households had about $4.6 trillion worth of wealth, and white households had over $900 trillion of wealth. So roughly that tells you where we are. And
right.
The challenge with that is that you lack autonomy when 98% of your workforce is going to work for somebody else. I'm not going to necessarily share in the spoils with you if I'm working for. You're doing my agenda. If you come to work for me, you're working for my cause and for my agenda.
Right.
So because of that, a lot of times in the Black community, we don't have full agency. So our voice, it's easier to expand your voice, to have your voice heard if you have something at stake in the public square. In the public square, we don't have anything at stake because we don't own anything. So our labor is taken advantage of, but we don't have the ability to dictate what takes place in the public square. So that is why, for me, educating on how to build Black wealth is so important.
Right. And it's crazy you bring that up because I was watching one of your YouTube videos and you were talking about W-2 workers, people working for someone else in their cause, right? And you said that they spend time and time, years working in an environment they're not happy in and, expecting different results. Insanity. How do you feel about that?
Well, first I need to say that I'm an entrepreneur, and us entrepreneurs, we think everybody should be an entrepreneur because there's this excitement, right. There's this freedom in carving your own path or moving in the path that the Spirit leads you. That's entrepreneurs have that. Even if they're not believers, they're moving by the Spirit in some capacity, in my personal opinion. Everybody's not that. However, many of us that are non-entrepreneurs are building in a space that we don't have passion for. We feel forced, and then we're miserable as a result because you spend so much time of your life working towards something to kind of essentially live paycheck to paycheck, and you keep doing it as if there's some sort of security in that. I think the challenge with a W-2 worker is the assumption that there's a false sense of security established in that framework. And if it's not secure and you're miserable, why are you doing it? You can go be a W-2 somewhere else and do it something that makes you happy. You can maybe you are an entrepreneur and we're scared to step out, but continuing to do the same thing that causes you misery is insanity because it permeates the rest of your life.
You're into the real estate space, right?
Yeah, so we're into a few things. Like I said, that I lead with education, space and equity. Our agenda, our mission is to create assets and new space, to increase assets and create new space for primarily the Black community. And so we do that through the podcast. We provide the education. That's where you saw me and you heard about what my stance on W-2 workers. But from there, we actually monetize in 7 different areas if you add real estate. My wife and I have been investing in real estate since 2006 through Kingdom Properties by Chukwumah. But then we also have a vertical that is Scooter's Coffee. So Scooter's Coffee is a franchise out of Omaha, Nebraska. We bought into that. We have 5 approved locations. We've got 2 that we're actively working on. We brought some investors on to help us in that process. So that's a vertical. You've got the real estate, the Scooter's Coffee, and then we provide some consultation to our customers. So you can come to us and ask us for a fee how to navigate the commercial loan process. You can come to us and say, hey, I need a fractional CFO. I need somebody to navigate the entire scope of my business operations. And we bring on partners to help you do that. So if you need marketing support, bring on King David and his wife, Sylvia, SM experts, SME experts. We'll have their team in place. We have Firebrand Media to help. I think that part of our coming to the public market space is with the support of these media folks. So that's a big component. But we also have partners that are certified public accountants like Larry West of PB Strategies. We bring all those players to the table to give you a full scope of navigating your financial life as a business owner.
Right. Yeah. So you're the founder of Space and Equity, right?
That's correct.
What led you to develop this business with multiple streams of income?
I think it's been developing over time. So when my first real full-time job was at BB&T Bank in North Carolina. In 2005, I became a branch manager. I was exposed to people investing in real estate, all walks of life. There was a UPS driver, had 30 properties. I was like, how does a UPS driver have 30 properties? And I was just fascinated by that. And I wanted to learn. And I didn't know then that I was an entrepreneur, but I was building towards that. So before our first child, Zena, was born, we had already bought our house, our primary residence, but we bought a rental property against my wife's will. And we just kept building from this. And that's where it started. Started. But then if you want something more immediate, it was really during the pandemic when George Floyd was killed for the world to see on national television. It wasn't that it was anything new. This has been happening for centuries in our community. But it was just so blatant. And I thought to myself, I said, what's going to happen next is we're going to hit the streets as we should, because this is just an atrocity. I said, but then what? And I was like, man, I'm 40. I'm not hitting the streets anymore. I did a little bit of protesting, but that's not my space. I said, how can I do this right? And then Space and Equity came to the forefront. So I originally started an organization called the Bold Black Men Fund, and I still have it.
Mhm.
And the thought process was to get 100 of us, 100 Black men specifically, to lead in investing in our community. So we were going to pool our money together, invest in real estate, invest in other verticals, buy businesses together, and expand. Now, it's a great idea, and it's still something I want to do, but that's a challenging thing to start, to get 100 people on the same page, 100 Black men. And all these guys are all over the
Right.
country I went to college with. So Space and Equity was like, all right, we need our own space. I said, we need to increase assets and create new space. Increase the assets is part of the group economics that Dr. Claude Anderson talks about. And then create new space. And I thought this was going to be a play against diversity and inclusion, because I think that there's value in diversity and inclusion, but as we've sought it, we've lost some of our institutions. You know, we've had Black institutions like Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've had
Yep.
these things throughout the country for years, and as desegregation has come about, we've lost these institutions. So there's been a detriment almost in that regard. I believe that you and I should not be limited as Americans in any place we want to go. We're full citizens. We're full-blooded citizens.
Right.
No matter what anybody says, we are full. We have our passport. Our citizenship is the same as anybody else that is a United States naturalized or born in this country, right?
Right.
We should be able to go wherever we want, but that's not always the case. So I said, instead of wanting to get a seat at the table, we're going to create our own table. And so Space and Equity came about from that. I'm not going to be out there protesting, but I'm going to do something different. We're going to establish in a 10-year span 100,000 jobs for the African-American community. If the big complaint is that the unemployment rate for African Americans is 10 times that of the normal population, all right, we're going to help solve that to some capacity. We're going to create 5,000 jobs. Our entrepreneurs will create their own entities out of the incubators that we're going to grow. And that's my mission over this 10-year span. That's how we're going to counteract the atrocities that fall upon our community at too great a clip.
Right. It's funny, you're kind of on track with something that's going on right now. I don't know if you saw, but it was just released, I think, a day or two ago. The top 5 or 10 TikTok creators, and I think Instagram creators as well.
Okay.
None of them were, of course, Black. Millions upon millions, maybe even billions of dollars made by each one of them. And a lot of Black creators and influencers have come out, protest in a way. And I was listening to somebody else saying that the solution is having our own platform and growing on that. What do you think about that?
I think you always create more leverage when you bring something to the table. If I'm on your platform, I'm asking you for permission on how to navigate. Like right now, Zave, this is your podcast. So you're in charge of how, like you welcome me. I feel welcome, but you're not going to let me take over your podcast.
Right.
The same thing with anything. If we don't have our own platform, we're always asking for permission. We're always seen as there's something that they need to do different. We're not in charge of how we move and how we breathe in that space. So yeah, we need to have our own platforms and help educate me on. So these top influencers, is the argument that there are Black influencers that should be on this list, and that's not being the case for whatever typical reason it occurs?
Yes, that is one of the arguments. Another one is that the ones that got to the top did it off of the back of Black culture. So
Yes.
I don't know if I don't know who was the one that did the renegade dance. I guess Charlie, but that dance was originally created by a Black girl. But as we know, Charlie, she went viral for it, and it kind of went from there. Yeah,
we're a gifted people, and everybody exploits our. I wish we would exploit our own gifts. which means
Right.
we would know what we're worth. And like,
Right.
so when I left corporate America, this is a little bit of a pivot. I left very, very
Uh-huh.
recently, and I left not because I necessarily wanted to. I wanted to let space and equity grow further, and then transition, and then even show as a partner. Because oftentimes, especially in the banking space, I don't know that they know how or desire to properly market to communities of color, Black and brown communities. And I was like, let me just create a platform where we do that. We did $85 million in loans in a 5-year span, and the majority of that was to African American, Indian American, Asian American customers. And I was like, I can just show them how to do it. And this will be valuable because they all have CRA requirements where they want to expand their banking territory. And to do that, they have to meet these, how are they servicing non-white communities? How are they servicing low to moderate income communities? Like, I can help them do that. But they didn't necessarily like the way I was going about doing it, which is fine. Nonetheless, it allowed me to fully understand what I was worth. I was limiting what I was worth based on corporate mindset. Like, I built this for them. Just talk about like that. If I did that $85 million in loans by myself or as a broker, from a profitability standpoint, it was $850,000 would be the minimum I would have cleared for that. I didn't clear that within the banking system. They give you pennies on the dollar. But when you're working for yourself, yes, you have the added risk because you don't have the safety net of your biweekly salary, but you have the added reward of you get to play more in the sports and you get to control more. So knowing your worth is expanded when you're outside of a framework, a culture or a system that says this is your cap or this is your ceiling.
Right. So you're very financially literate. You said you left the banking space quite recently, right?
That's correct.
Or corporate America. Yeah. How long did you spend in that space?
14 years. 14 years in that space. So.
14 years. Wow. So you have a lot of knowledge in this space and you applied it to where you are now.
Correct. So a lot of what I share is what I learned. And I think corporate America, if you don't take advantage of the education it provides, that's a waste of time. So what I'm grateful for is that I got a lot of great data that not just is unknown primarily in the Black community, but in general. I think financial literacy has been a thing of the past. Wealthy people teach their kids about financial literacy, but the rest of the population and how you define wealth is always different for who the individual is. But people with means, people who control and navigate how they move about this world, they teach their kids about financial literacy. The rest of us really don't learn it. We definitely don't learn it in school, in the public school system.
So you said you left recently. From what you've built, it doesn't look like it seems so recent. It seems like you've been doing this for all of your life.
I think I'm a believer. So I think God can propel time. I think God can navigate time the way he's not captured by time the way we are. So if it was my season, my time to walk into this, it's like it was just propelled, but a lot of what has been presented is stuff that over the years was developed, and it was just now pushed all out like an accelerated version. But I've been working on this for years, and I can't take the credit at all. My timing is everything. My brother, who's also an entrepreneur, it's interesting that life circumstances put him in a situation where he was available to me, but he learned a lot over the years through his experiences that was built into this. He's a college graduate, NC State, played soccer or the original football at NC State. When he left school, he went to Nigeria, our home country, where we have dual citizenship, and he tried out for their under 20 team. Made it, but didn't have success, too much success there, got cut, but spent some time in Nigeria, came back, Was working in the soccer space and in club soccer space for a while at universities, but always had the entrepreneurial spirit. Went back to Nigeria. Probably should have taken some advice from the elders that are around him, but as when you're young in your 20s, you know everything. Didn't have the success he wanted, but he learned a lot. And he's now with us in Space and Equities, our chief operating officer. All that back office stuff, the way you see it presented is because of all of his diligent work on the back end. He's minutely detail oriented. I am the opposite. So without his support, that just doesn't happen. And then you have my sister, who's a very skilled salesperson. She's been in retail, been in cosmetology for years. She's owned her own salon. She still does hair. She's going to lead our scooters franchises. And I know that she'll have great success. She has a great way to connect with people in general. From a networking standpoint, people are tied to her. She sends great referrals. So she'll be leading in that piece. Then I've got our youngest brother, Chidozie, is going to come on and support all the sales effort on the consulting side. Former college basketball player, entrepreneur, insurance. So all these people make it so what you guys see is a great product. Then of course, I can't say enough about David and about Jay. I don't know a thing about social media. Without this, I'll put it like this. I was in Miami and they weren't with me. They're like, hey, you got to go live. I'm like, oh, damn. I don't know. Do it. I didn't even know how to go live. And then I didn't know how to click off. So I was done with my clip. I was like, all right, I'm out if I know how to get it. And I couldn't even unclick. And then I went live with somebody else and I was in the matrix. You couldn't hear me. I was trying to get off. I didn't know how to get it. Was nonsense. So without the support of professionals, it wouldn't look as smooth as it looks.
Right. So you got a whole team backing you up.
Got a team. I believe in everything about what we do is about teams. I believe in group economics. We should do our businesses, our enterprises as a team. You should do your individual business as a team. You don't do anything by yourself. You got to be around people that are going to build you up and expand you beyond the scope of what you think you're capable of.
Right, because you're the average of the people that you surround yourself around, right?
You are the sum of all their parts.
Yeah.
So, we believe in having we have a team around us completely, as I just described. But part of what we're doing for our clients is putting teams around them. Our concierge service on the consulting side, that fractional CFO, it's like we can have we have a fleet, if you will, of services that is part of your team and your network to help expand your business, to incubate your business.
Growing up, including, your childhood and everything, how long would you say it took for you to get to the point that you are now?
41 years.
41 years, the whole
I think
41.
everything builds on it. So it's interesting. I was talking with a colleague and I shared with her, she's still in corporate America. She's doing great things, big things. She's actually going to be at our event, Field of the Boardroom, in February 19th. And she was talking about the struggle of dealing with jealousy, if you will, within corporate America. She's had so much success that she's done TED Talks. She's getting speaking engagements, talking to CEOs around the world, and her colleagues within her organization are jealous. And I said to her, and so of course they're jealous. Can you actually look around you and who is as talented as you? If you're more talented than the people you report to, that's going to be a threat. And then we shifted the conversation and said, honestly, these gifts we've had it like 10 years ago, I could have taught about a lot of the things that I'm teaching about now, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready from a humility standpoint. I wasn't ready from a life experience standpoint. So to answer the question, everything that has happened has built to this. It's taken 41 years to be ready to do what I'm doing today.
So it all compounds on each other.
It all compounds on each other. The fact that you have to have some, like my brother had to go through the things he went through to be in a position to be, quote unquote, the number 2 on our team. He wouldn't have had the humility. He had the skill set 10 years ago, but he wouldn't have been humble enough to take direction from me on a regular basis.
Mm.
And all of us have those stories that kind of lead us to. So don't ever disparage the path that you've taken. You learn from that. We're flawed human beings, and we have to, if we could just learn from other people's experiences, we'd be good, but we don't do that. We don't do that.
No. Bringing up, going back to the jealousy you said that your friend experienced, I asked my audience, did they have any questions? I told them I'd be interviewing you, and they submitted something, and this is a question that I never thought of asking, but in your line of work, did you or do you have trust issues?
Yes. And I think my trust issues stem from childhood traumas, honestly. But yes, oftentimes trust issues are a result of insecurities, whether it's insecurities of the other party or your own insecurities, but definitely had some trust issues in general because there was a period in my life where my mom wasn't there when you're supposed to have your mom. Well, you're supposed to always have your mom, but in childhood, there was some missing parts. And as a result, I was very cautious on extending trust.
So how did you overcome that?
Everybody can't be penalized for what occurred in your life. Through therapy, honestly, through therapy, and then just taking time to examine the situation, saying what is actually happening versus what's happening in my mind about this situation, and also realizing that there can't be relationship without trust. It doesn't exist. I have to trust that you have the best intentions for me in this interview to be free to communicate with you. If I don't trust that you have the best interest in this interview, then I'm gonna hold back and we're gonna have a substandard exchange. So knowing that I have to trust and that because we're humans, there's the ability for them to let you down, but it's okay, and just move forward from that. That's the process.
Right. So what's the closest you've been to giving up?
Whew. I've had a few of those.
A few close calls.
I've had a few close calls. In marriage, wow, it was in 2013. We just weren't on the same page for about a year and a half, and I didn't realize till she knew the whole year and a half we weren't on the same page. But as a man, we're a little slow to the game. I realized about 2 months before we were transitioning from Texas to Florida at the time, and I thought about it, and then I was like, I can't live without this woman. So that was that. In career, I had a tough transition in transitioning from retail banking to commercial banking. In the commercial banking space, that's where you got larger dollar transactions. There's not many people that look like us, and I was chasing a lot of customers. I was chasing I just wanted them to like me. I just wanted them to close business with me. So I would sell myself out basically. And I was like, man, F this. Excuse my language. F this. I can't do this. I got to do this. And that's when we made that transition. At $85 million was like, the new rule is you don't have to respect me to do this. I'm gonna respect you no matter what, but you're gonna have to reciprocate that respect. Otherwise, we'll move on. And that changed the whole dynamic. There were still white clients I dealt with, but again, if you weren't gonna respect me, I was gonna keep it moving.
Thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed our guests, make sure you follow them in socials listed. Tell them that Zave sent you. Like mentioned earlier, the 15-day Business Builder Challenge is great if you're looking to pick up an extra side hustle or even scale your business. Don't say we didn't try to put you on. Also, if you found value in this episode, feel free to donate and support. All links are in the description below. See you on the flip side.